watching Weasel News.
All rise. The court is now in session. The Honorable Magistrate Anthony Coronado presiding.
You may be seated. Good evening, everyone. This court is now in session. I am Anthony Coronado, and I will be the magistrate presiding over this matter. Before we begin this evening, we will set some ground rules for my courtroom. All persons involved in this proceeding shall remain polite and courteous for the duration both amongst each other and with the members of this court, as well as the general public in attendance today. Members of the gallery are to keep noise to a minimum and are also expected to be courteous and respectful. There will be a zero-tolerance policy for anyone seen to be or perceived to be attempting to interfere with these proceedings or attempting to cause disruption. Anyone found to be in violation of these rules of my courtroom will find themselves charged without trial for civil contempt of court and possibly obstruction of justice. You will not be warned again. Now we are clear on the ground rules, we may move forward with other matters. With me today is my bailiff, Detective Jeff Stevens, as well as Circuit Judge Joanna McGrath. Detective Stevens will be responsible for security of this proceeding, and the police officers and San Andreas security agents at the back of the court are also here for everyone's protection. Today, this court will be hearing the case of 2023 Criminal Matter 190, State of San Andreas versus Salvatore Tugelbend. Defendant, please rise and state your name for the record, confirming that you are Salvatore Tugelbend.
I am Salvatore Tugelbend.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. State, can you please present the charges against Mr. Tugelbend?
Of course, Your Honor. Mr. Tugelbend is facing 1 times failure to obey a lawful order and 1 times Class 1 drug possession.
All right, thank you. Defense, can you confirm the plea of Mr. Tugelbend?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
All right. Does anyone like to present an opening statement? State, we'll start with you.
Before we begin, Your Honor, can the state request a brief sidebar?
Yes, you may approach.
Am I allowed to join?
Yep. All right. Once again, State, would you like to present an opening statement?
Fucking door.
We would, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
Good evening, Your Honors, the defense, and people of San Andreas. Today, the state will present to you a case that simply started as breaking and entering call, but due to the argumentative, uncooperation, and disregard for the situation from the defendant, it spiraled into other charges. These charges stand to you today simply as failure to obey a lawful order issued by the officers in a Class 1 drug possession. On June 4th, 2023, dispatch issued a report of someone stating a house was being allegedly entered. Officers then responded to the scene accordingly, noting a male fleeing from the area, then climbing up on a ladder and onto a roof. Due to the reasonable suspicion, officers approached and issued a conversation on approach, relaying that to the defendant, Salvatore Tugelbend, what was going on, reading his Miranda rights, and then finally detained him for questioning. The defendant was noted by officers as argumentative and blatantly becoming uncooperative. Officers are supposed to be professional and handle every situation differently depending on the officer and how they then approach that situation. When a defendant comes off defensive and uncooperative, they still have to approach the situation and continue with their jobs, no matter the circumstances and no matter what is being said to them. The defense will claim that there are no grounds for this arrest. However, the state will prove otherwise, with sworn testimonies from officers on scene, along with information provided from dispatch and other evidence accepted by the courts, The state will now provide, beyond a shadow of doubt, that our friends would like to say otherwise today, that Mr. Tugelbend is indeed guilty of these crimes. Thank you.
All right, defense, did you have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Your Honor, today we gathered to seek justice to uphold the principles upon which our legal system is built upon. My client, Salvatore Tugelbend, stands today accused of failure to obey unlawful order and possession of drugs. We will cast shadow of doubt on the prerequisites that proves that the lawful order given was in fact unlawful. From the outset, it was clear from the arresting officers were acting on assumptions and misconceptions. They claimed to have received reports of a breaking entering charge, yet in their own reports state that they had no solid evidence linking Mr. Tugelbend to such a crime. And in their haste to find a suspect, disregarded the fundamental principles of our justice system, including the presumption of innocence. The burden lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Salvatore Tugelbend is guilty of these charges levied against him, but we, the defense, will throw doubt onto all these charges. Thank you.
All right. With that being finished, State, would you like to call your first witness or present your first piece of evidence, please?
I got recruited. Hold on.
Your Honor, before we continue, the state would like to bring up a concern to the courts today.
Proceed.
On line 15 of the court docket 23 CM 190, State of San Andreas versus Salvatore Tugelbend, the defense submitted in their evidence labeled as A. It seems the defendant is willing to substantiate his own claims today per this posting. We would like some clarification before proceeding. Is this true?
Defense?
Sorry, could you elaborate on that?
What is there to elaborate? Is he waiving his Fifth Amendment rights at this time?
No, he's just pushing a statement. I'll discuss further on if I want to enter the exhibit under, then yes, he'll be, I'm sure.
Your Honor, before we continue, the state would like to strike the defense's submission of evidence A and strip it completely from the record. It is considered hearsay at this time.
Defense, any rebuttal?
At this time, it may be hearsay, but I can assure you, it will be brought in later into question.
Your Honor, by the
If-
defense's own words, it is allegedly hearsay still. It is still hearsay.
Allegedly.
Okay. All right. So this was a concern that was brought up earlier, and my decision on this is as follows. It is unorthodox for a defendant to enter his own statement. However, it is not illegal. That is why I accepted it. However, I will make it clear to you, Mr. Tugelbend, and your defense that if you would like this statement to stay on the record, you are waiving your Fifth Amendment right. If you'd like to strike it from the record, you're more than allowed to. It sounds like, unless I'm mistaken, Ms. Ashbrook, if the defense is willing to waive his Fifth Amendment right and be questioned on the authenticity of this statement, they'll be okay with it. But if you're not waiving your Fifth Amendment right, then I have no choice but to strike that statement, Defense Exhibit A, from the record. So you can take a minute to confirm with your client what you'd like to do, and let me know what you wanted, how you want to proceed. Okay? Take a minute.
2 seconds, Your Honor. Yeah.
Trying to press our rights.
Yeah, Your Honor, he's okay with his Fifth Amendment rights.
For
So
further
the
clarification on the state, is this meaning that he is willing to come forth as a witness under sworn oath and testimony today before the court?
For cross-examination, yes.
Oppression of the poor.
Okay, I'd like to hear from you, Mr. Tugelbend. Are you willing to waive your Fifth Amendment right and be called to testify yourself on the stand today?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why can't you arrest all of them?
All right. Well, in that case, Defense Exhibit A will still be allowed. However, just remember that when the time comes, it still must be presented before the court to be considered. So with that being taken care of, Ms. Ashbrook and State, do you have your first witness or piece of evidence?
Of course, Your Honor. We would to just submit again for the convenience of the courts and the people in the courtroom. State exhibits A through C.
All right. The state recognizes State Exhibit A, B, and C.
All right, that having been said, we would like to call our first witness, Miles Strand, to the stand, please.
All right, Officer Strand, or is it Corporal Strand? I apologize. Please step forward, and be sworn in by the bailiff, and take your seat to my left. or my left.
Corporal Strand, please raise your left hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, he's been sworn in, Your Honor.
All right, you may be seated, Corporal. State he is your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, good evening. How are you doing today, Corporal?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. All right. And just for the record, what is your department rank and name?
My name is Miles Strand with the LSPD. I am a corporal.
Perfect. And can you tell the courts how long you've been with the LSPD?
I've been with the LSPD for well over a year, from around, I'd say, February or March last year.
Wonderful. Could you briefly walk us through your daily duties as a law enforcement officer?
Well, our daily duties consist of usually traffic stops. We actually do respond to a lot of B&Es, a lot of store robberies, and heinous crimes such as shots within gang turfs or just irregular locations within the city.
All right. Can you take a look at Exhibit B for me?
Let me pull it up. Would you mind emailing that to me?
I believe it is on the line. Sorry, I'm just going to direct to the line on the docket. Going to be line 8 of the docket.
All right. Okay.
Can you confirm that this is the call you received on June 5th, 2023?
Yes.
Where was the location of this?
This was in Mirror Park.
Perfect. Can you state your version of events for when you arrived?
So when we arrived, we originally observed just a car part. Before we then observed a male individual dressed in a business casual outfit with a clear visible shoulder strap gun holster running across backyards. The individual ran up the ladder, or climbed up the ladder, after which we followed. I myself with a gun out and my partner with their taser out. Obviously, this due to the circumstances and this being a B&E and the crimes that we usually do respond to, and these calls very likely turning violent. Up on the roof, we found Mr. Tugelbend, and we informed him that we had responded to a crime in the area. We witnessed him leaving the area, and that we were detaining him. My partner then read him his rights and tried to speak to him. He quickly became very defensive and hostile, claiming the detainment was unlawful and the detainment was unjustified, to which we tried to calm him down at first, where he only got more agitated to the point where my partner stepped away and I had to step in. As I tried to calm him down, he did not seem to calm down, to which I wanted to get him off the roof because I did not personally not feel comfortable being on top of a roof, tell you 2-story or 3-story roof, with an individual that is getting hostile. Having said so, I asked him to get off the roof politely. I did inform him that it could be trespassing, which he argued up against. I informed him that regardless, I was still going to give him a lawful order to get off the roof, and we would figure out whether it was trespassing or not. After this event, Mr. Tugelbend still was very defensive and did not want to comply, after which I stated that this was a clear lawful order to get off the roof, otherwise I was going to place him under arrest. He did still not comply, and this is when I did inform him that I was placing him under arrest. This is the moment where he turned around, approached the ladder, and went down. Now, down at the ladder, another argument pursued that it was all unlawful, to which I eventually placed him in cuffs. I read him his rights again, and I actually did make a call to DOJ whether to see it was actually trespassing or not. Regardless whether it was, he was not under arrest for trespassing. He was under arrest for failure to obey a lawful order. Upon search, we found the magic mushrooms And then we drove back to PD. In the car, Mr. Tugelbend was still trying to plead his case and being defensive about it. And I will be honest that I kind of just zoned in and listened to music on the road back.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Do you see the individual that you encountered that night, Drew?
Yes,
Could you point them out to me?
right there.
Perfect. Thank you. I do believe Miss Ashbrook has some questions for you as well.
I won't approach any further. Good to see you, Corporal.
Hello.
As an officer of the law, do you issue lawful orders?
Yes, I do. In situations where it is needed, either for a person to leave the area or to get off a situation or away from somewhere, yes, we do. Also when there is a disturbance of the peace. Those are the most common situations that we do so.
For the courts today, I'm going to read from the Criminal Code the following definition: failure to obey a lawful order. A. The failure to respond and comply with a lawfully given order. B. Lawful orders to include but are not limited to securing a crime scene or ordering an unruly person to leave an area, a court order, or an order from a judge sitting on the bench in a courtroom. Corporal Strand, in your training experience, what do you understand a lawful order to be defined as?
I understand a lawful order when a situation is getting out of control or you can't really seem to get a finger on it. You inform the person that you're giving them an order to either identify themselves or to leave an area.
Did you state to the defendant that you were giving a lawful order?
Very clearly.
How did the defendant respond to this?
By arguing that it was not lawful for me to make that order.
When did you decide to arrest the suspect?
After I informed him that I was going to place him arrest if he didn't follow the lawful order, and he still didn't follow it, that's when I informed him that I was placing him under arrest.
Was he compliant during this time of arrest?
No. He still walked away from me, went down the ladder where he continued his argument, and I got my foot down.
I see. Were you the officer that performed the search after the arrest on the defendant?
That will be correct.
Can you look at State Exhibit A for me?
Yes.
Please let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Does this match what you found on the individual?
It does.
And for clarification, did you find any drugs on the individual?
I did.
Can you restate how many of the drugs or substances you found on him?
There was 9 units of magic mushrooms.
I'm going to read from Prosecution Exhibit C, HR 159, specifically amended definition recognized by the state as Class 1 drugs. It is legal to be in possession of up to 5 standard units of any form of marijuana bud, the product of the marijuana plant, possession of the entire marijuana plant is not included, or mushrooms. A standard marijuana joint should be considered 1 gram of marijuana, and a standard unit is 5 grams of marijuana. A standard unit of the mushrooms, also known as magic or mystery mushrooms, will be 1 mushroom. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, defense, would you like to cross-examine Corporal Strand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, he's your witness.
Hello, Corporal Strand. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great.
That's good. That's good. So, with a lawful order, can you tell me the prerequisites of a lawful order?
Would you mind wording that question differently?
Yeah. So, what, in your professional opinion, constitutes a lawful order? Like, what needs to happen for you to then give one?
Your Honor,
Well-
objection asked and answered in the prosecution's line of questioning.
I'm asking for the prerequisite, not for what defines a lawful order.
Then the state asks it to be redefined because he asked specifically his mindset. That was already asked in the state's definition.
Okay, I'll redefine it. I'll reword my question.
All right.
So, would you say a crime needs to be being committed or something happening to then cause a lawful order to be said?
No, not necessarily. It could be an unruly person or disturbance of the peace. It could also be a heating or escalating situation.
Right, and what would you define as an unruly person?
I would somebody that is agitated and getting aggressive or hostile towards other people.
And would you say that sometimes being unruly is okay, depending on how it was escalated by somebody?
Depends on the location and the whereabouts and the situation.
Okay. So when you arrived on scene on, sorry, let me just double check the actual location at the Mirror Park Boulevard, and you arrived on scene and went up to the roof, you had your gun drawn, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And why
Your
did you?
Honor, objection irrelevant for this.
What was the question again?
I asked him that if he had his gun drawn when he approached the scene.
Sustained.
Okay. So when you arrived, what was the exact lawful order that you give to my client?
Well, simply to get off the roof.
Okay. And then he failed to comply, correct?
That
Is
is
that
correct.
what you believe? Okay. And then when he got off the roof, was that before or after you said he was being detained?
He was detained at the very moment that we started the conversation.
Okay. And you were arriving on scene for a breaker and entering charge, correct?
Correct.
So when you saw Salvatore on top of the roof, why did you not say that it was a breaking and entering charge and pursued a trespassing charge?
We were not we were not in the beginning trying to push a trespassing charge or at all. It was merely informing him that we were trying to get him off the roof. We did inform him that there was a crime in the immediate area, and later on did also explain to him that there was a B&E.
Okay. And sorry, 2 seconds, Your Honor. So you said that you arrived on scene and then immediately went for a trespassing charge. Is that correct? Or what was the conversation?
Your
led up
Honor,
to you?
objection badgering the witness.
Sustained.
Okay, I'll reword. So what made you go under the impression of a trespassing charge?
I did not go for a trespassing charge at all. My immediate attempt was to talk to him and see why he was running across the backyard. That's why he was also detained. When he was getting defensive, I was trying to get him off the roof. I did mention trespassing because it was a possibility, but there was no way for me to see a sign at the bottom from the roof.
Right. Okay. 2 seconds now. That'll be my cross-examination for now, Your Honor.
All right. Corporal Strand, are we okay with releasing state and defense? Are we okay with releasing Corporal Strand from subpoena now, as he had very limited time tonight?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'll like to call him as my witness for my own examination instead of cross-examination.
Your Honor, where was this listed on the docket prior to
I
this?
subpoenaed him.
What line, please?
I believe he did. Let me double check.
Line 10. I'd like to subpoena the following witnesses: Corporal Miles Strand, Officer Dixie.
Thank you.
He did. As there are no other witnesses in this case, I see no issue to hold him under subpoena because I believe, unless the state has another witness or another piece of evidence, we'll be going right to the defense's witnesses anyway. So for now, Corporal Strand, you may be seated in the gallery, and Mr. Delaney, you can head back to your desk and we will proceed properly. Remember, Corporal, you're still under subpoena for the moment.
Okay.
State, did you have another witness or piece of evidence you wanted to call?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Defense, do you have a piece of evidence or witness that you'd like to call?
Yes, I'd like to call Officer Miles Strand to the stand.
Corporal Strand, please stand and approach once again. Have a seat to my left. Your witness, defense.
Thank you. Hello, Officer Strand. Sorry, Corporal Strand.
Hello.
Hello. So, as I tried to say in my last cross-examination, but I'll not re-go for it. Oh, sorry.
All this time.
Yep. So, you approached Salvatore Tugelbend on the scene of the crime with gun drawn, correct?
That's
Your
correct.
Honor, objection leading.
rebuttal, Mr. Delaney?
It's said in the statement that he had his gun drawn, so I was just clarifying that.
This also could be considered badgering given the fact we denied it in our line of questioning as well.
That was
It's
for
just re-bringing it back up.
cross-examination.
It is, but still.
Overruled. Answer the question, Corporal.
Yeah, I did go up the ladder with a gun.
And why was that when Officer Dixie Carter came out with a taser?
Your Honor, objection hearsay is bringing forth another individual who has not been subpoenaed into the court correspondence today.
Sustained.
Okay, what was your reasoning to have a gun drawn on scene?
Well, we are trained that going up ladders is putting ourselves in a very dangerous situation. When we go up a ladder, we do usually not know what we are going to be up against or what we're facing, and especially since this was a breaking and entering, and he could be involved, I was not going to take my chances. So I did indeed make sure that I had protection on myself.
Sorry, could you clarify that? So you said that you thought it was the breaking and entering charge you were there for?
No. Well, it could be related. It doesn't mean he is, but there is a chance because we did witness him leaving the area.
You witnessed him leaving there of the breaking and entering?
Yes.
I thought when you arrived on scene he was already on the roof.
No,
Your
he was
Honor,
not.
objection. This line of questioning is starting to become irrelevant away from the charges that the defendant is facing today in court.
Sustained.
Okay. So you arrived on the scene, you got up the ladder with a gun drawn, correct?
Correct.
Did you have your gun pointed at my client?
Nope.
You didn't? You just had it drawn?
Yep.
Okay. And then what did you start the conversation off with? Did you put your gun away when you noticed my client held no reasonable threat to you, or did you have your gun out the entire time during that?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Do you think that being approached by somebody with a gun drawn might make you unruly?
Your Honor, objection. Badgering the evidence. Badgering the witness. Apologies.
Sustained.
Okay. So, what was the exact questions you were asking my client in relation to being on the roof?
We were genuinely asking why he was running
Your
across
Honor,
the back.
objection. Before this continues, this is calling for speculation. Based on the time frame, this took over a month ago at this time.
Repeat your question, Mr.
I was
Delaney?
asking him the questions that he asked my client whilst he was on the rooftop.
I'm going to overrule that one.
Would you like to answer? Sorry, Corporal Strong.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, Corporal,
well,
go ahead and answer.
from what I remember is that we asked him why he was running across the backyards and who was on the radio with just trying to get information on what's happening.
Right, and then so you decided later on to call DOJ in relation to a trespassing charge, correct?
Yes. This was
Objection,
simply...
Your Honor, beyond the scope.
Repeat the question one more time.
I asked him did he call DOJ in relation to the trespassing charge.
Sustained.
Okay. So after you were on the roof and you asked him a few questions, what was my client's reaction?
I can't recall from the top of my head like this anymore. It's been over a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that he was getting very defensive about the detainment and refused to really talk to us.
From the start?
From the start.
When did you decide to detain him?
At the very beginning.
And what was your reason for detainment?
Because we witnessed him leaving the area of a crime.
And the breaking and entering crime, correct?
Correct.
And did you decide to tell him that was under that guise?
Objection, Your Honor. Badgering yet again and leading.
Overruled. Keep asking.
We did inform him that we witnessed him seeing him leaving the area of a crime.
Okay, and what was his response?
I don't recall.
Okay, and what evidence did you have him linking to the crime? Was it just the fact that he was leaving the area?
Yep.
You understand?
We couldn't link him to the crime.
Objection, Your Honor. This line of questioning is now continuing into a badgering and leading standpoint.
Repeat your question one more time.
I can't even remember the question now, sorry.
I'll overrule it. Move on. Or I'm sorry, sustain it. Move on.
Okay. So when he was leaving, sorry, said he was leaving the crime scene. Which house was he in exactly that was the breaking and entering charge?
I don't recall exactly, but I do believe it was the one at the way, I believe, south of the street, and we witnessed him running across all backyards towards the ladder.
All backyards.
Yes.
So did
Well,
you see him leave the actual crime scene?
from our visual line, well, if we would have seen him leaving the actual crime scene, yes, we did see him leaving the area. If it was the actual crime scene, I cannot really 100% confirm that.
What do you mean by that? Sorry, so you can't confirm that he left the actual house the breaking and entering
No,
came from?
No, he was running from the back side of the house. We were on the front side, so we cannot confirm that he exited the house. However, he came from that backyard.
He came from the backyard of the breaking and where the breaking and entering came from. Okay. And did you tell him to stop at all before that, or did you just follow him up on the rooftop?
Because he was already on top of the roof when we got out of the car and followed him.
And did you disclose yourself that you were police on the scene before you went up onto the rooftop?
I believe we did, yes.
You believe or no? Sorry.
Yeah, I believe we did, but if there is a chance that you might have not heard that.
Okay. So you understand Mirror Park is a public area that has plenty of houses and residents within it, yeah?
Yeah.
Was there anyone within the breaking and entering scene that you got in contact with to get any visual, like,
Objection, Your
evidence?
Honor, inflammatory.
Overruled.
What's the question?
Did you investigate the breaking and entering charge besides saying Salvatore Tugelbend leaving the area?
We eventually were not able to because we had our hands full with him.
Right. Was there anyone else on scene in the breaking and entering?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered in the latest statement given by the witness on stand.
Sustained.
Two seconds, Your Honor. Did you ask the client why he was in Mirror Park at the time?
Nope.
I see. And you had no visual description of the break-in and entering perpetrator, correct?
We don't get that information usually.
And you didn't decide to ask for any, like, you didn't decide to ask Salvatore at the time if he saw anyone leave that area?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. I think that's it, Your Honor.
All right. You may be seated, Mr. Delaney. State, would you like to cross-examine Corporal Strand?
No, the state would like to release him from his subpoena due to the time constraints at this time.
Okay, Corporal Strand. At this time, Mr. Delaney, are you also good with releasing him from subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Since you've asked your questions? All right. Thank you, Corporal Strand, for your time. I understand that you weren't able to make the initial scheduling, so I greatly appreciate you making time for this court so we can get another docket off of, out of the judiciary, the grand docket. So you may go. Thank you again.
No problem.
Okay, defense, do you have any other witnesses or pieces of evidence that you would like to present?
Your Honor, can I have a 10-minute recess?
For what purpose?
To quickly read over some statements and go over a couple of things with my client.
Yes, this court will adjourn for 10 minutes and be back at 6:45. Court is adjourned for 10 minutes.
All rise. The court is now in session. The Honorable Magistrate Anthony Coronado presided.
You may be seated. Did you figure everything out you needed to figure out, Mr. Delaney?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Would you like to call another witness or present another piece of evidence?
Yes, I would like to enter into Exhibit A, Salvatore Tugelbend's statement, along with entering him as my next witness.
All right. The court recognizes Defense Exhibit A. Mr. Tugelbend, please step forward to the bailiff and get sworn in.
Good, sir. Could you raise your left hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, he's been sworn in, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Tugelbend, you may take a seat to my left. It's your witness, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can't fucking sit down.
Hello, Sal. How's it going?
Hey, how we doing?
Could you recount your your recount of the night in question?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I was in Mirror Park at my house with my wife and on Nicola Place, and you know, there was a really nice sunset, and I figured I wanted to go and take a nice photo of it, so I started to run across the street, and that is when the police initially arrived on scene. They were driving down East Mirror Drive. They were coming from a southward kind of direction, and they pulled up to the house, which was it was on the corner of Nickel Avenue and East Mirror Drive. So as they pulled up, I was literally running west towards them from Nickel Place, which means that the car was between me and the alleged crime scene.
So just to clarify, you were basically in front of the car.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Continue, sorry.
And yeah, so literally I couldn't have left the crime scene like he says that I could have, because I was running towards it, if anything. My wife was also at the house on Nickel Place, and she watched me run across the road and heard me call on the radio, "Oh, the police are here. I wonder what that's for." I then continued to run, like I ran northwards up East Mirror Drive to a little place where there's a sort of a gap in the backyards. I ran across the backyard and climbed up the ladder to the roof to proceed to take the photo that I wanted to take.
Okay. When you were up on the roof, what were you doing when the police approached you? Taking the photo, correct?
Yeah, correct. I had a phone out, taking a photo, and
did the police identify themselves?
They did not until they were standing right behind me, and I turned around, and one of them, well, I believe they were both armed.
And what was your first thought when you turned around after trying to take a picture and there was police officers standing with you armed?
Well, I was a little scared, I'll be honest with you. I didn't expect it. I didn't even hear them coming up to me, so I was literally just standing there, you know, trying to take a nice photo. But so I was a little scared of it, and you know, it put me on edge a little. I just asked them, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Yada yada, and
did you tell them why you were up on the roof?
I did. Yeah, the first thing I stated was I'm up here just to take some photos.
From your statement, it says you explained that you came up for a better view of Mirror Park, at which point they became hostile and decided to detain you. Can you tell me what led up to that?
Yeah, absolutely. He literally said to me, Miles Strand said to me, "I'm not doing this today." As I told him, I'm literally just here to take some photos. He started to get more and more angry as I was saying, "Well, I'm literally here just to take photos. So, like, I don't know what you want from me. You know, you're more than willing to question me. I'm just here. You know what I mean? I'm not doing anything." And yeah, I mean, he just started to get more irate, and then he was like, "Okay." They both stepped aside, both him and I didn't catch the other officer's name. I'm sorry.
Officer Dixie.
Dixie, correct, right? They both stepped aside and they spoke amongst themselves for a moment, told me to wait, and then they came back to me and detained me.
And what did they say they were detaining you under?
He didn't actually tell me anything. They just read me my rights and said that you are detained, and then started questioning me.
Okay, and what was the line of question they were asking you?
They were questioning again once why I was up there, and he then said that I am trespassing on the property.
Did he tell you why he believed that you were trespassing property?
He did not, and I told him I'm not trespassing, sir. There's, that's not how trespassing works.
Mhm.
And he proceeded to tell me that he can trespass me from wherever property he wants, whenever he feels like it.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, given that
You
I
live
know,
in Mirror Park, the area, correct?
yeah, literally across the road from the alleged crime scene.
So would you say that upsets you, that the fact that he's trying to trespass you from an area that you live in?
100%, yeah. And I told him that. I told him my wife is literally at my house across the road. We can go and talk to her. But
At
he
any
didn't
point
want to
did he
hear any
try
of it.
to? At any point did he try and get in contact with your wife?
He did not.
Okay.
Neither officer did.
At what point would you say that you began to be aggressive, as Miles Strands put it?
I don't think I was ever aggressive. I was literally just answering his questions, and when he got upset and tried to detain me and arrest me for trespassing, I told him multiple times that you're not allowed to do that, and he got more and more irate as I was explaining to him that he should probably call a lawyer or a judge to explain the law to him, because apparently he doesn't know it.
Right. And at any point did he say he was going to be arresting you under a trespassing charge, or that he was detaining you for a trespassing charge?
Yes, he said it multiple times when we were on the roof. He then also told me that if he sees me in the area of Mirror Park again, then he would trespass me from the entirety of Mirror Park.
Okay. And when he got in contact with the DOJ and he said that you were not in fact trespassing, what was his response to you?
After he was told that it was not trespassing, he said that doesn't matter because I'm still going to hit you with a failure to obey.
Right. And how did that make you feel?
Again, I was I was upset. I do, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know the law relatively well, and I was upset that he was essentially just forcing a law that does not exist onto me the entire time. And then when he was shown that he was wrong, he just decided to throw different charges at me.
Right. And would you say that you were unruly at all? Or do you think that Miles Strand provoked you into being quote unquote unruly?
I believe he was trying to provoke me, but at no time was I unruly in any way. I may have raised my voice slightly, telling him that he was wrong, but at no time was I posturing towards him or shouting at him or being, aggressive in any way.
Mm-hmm. And at what point did they search you? Was it under the guise of the trespassing charge or under the guise of the failure to obey unlawful order?
He searched me after he had cuffed me, so that would have been after he decided to do the failure to obey.
Right. And when did you decide to get off the roof? Was that after he cuffed you, or?
That was before he cuffed me. I told him, listen, we can go down to the bottom of the ladder and we can look to see if there's any signs for you to trespass me. But I can assure you there is no signs on this building that say no trespassing, so that you have no right to trespass me. So we got to the bottom of the ladder, and that is when he called the judge.
So just to be clear, so he gave you the lawful order to get down off the roof.
Yep.
You had a conversation with him to explain why it wasn't trespassing.
Correct.
Then got down off the roof.
At my own volition, correct.
Yeah. And then after being found out that you weren't in fact trespassing, he then arrested you for failure to obey unlawful order.
That is correct.
The lawful order that was to get off the roof that you just got off.
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. State, would you like to cross-examine Mr. Tugelbend?
Yes, Your Honor, we would. Just give us a moment, please.
Sure. When you're ready, he's your witness.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm not bad. Yourself?
I'm doing all right today. Just
Good.
a few clarifying questions we have as a state today, if you don't mind answering.
Of course.
Can you clarify, did you have a radio on you at any point during this event?
I did.
Can you re-clarify on who you were directly talking to?
That would be my wife, Jade Tugelbend.
Was the individual aware of the situation going on June 6, 2023,
Which situation?
of you being on the roof?
Yes, I told her that I was going to run across to the roof and take some photos. I told her that on the radio.
I see. Did you hear the officers say anything on their arrival?
No,
When did you first talk with the officers?
when they snuck up behind me armed when I was taking a photo.
Mm-hmm. About what time did this take place? Do you remember?
The sun, I believe, was rising. So it was early.
I see. To clarify, you had stated to the defendant that this had taken place at sunset. Is that correct?
Negative.
I am very sure that you had stated that this had taken place at sunset.
I don't
Can
believe I
we
did.
have the courts clarify this, if this was correct?
Yes, he did state sunset.
In statement in line 10, you had stated this took place at sunrise, correct?
Correct.
Can you now refer back to your statement in line 10?
Given the weather and starting to rise, the sun's starting to rise. So it was a nice time for a photograph.
Okay. Back on this statement on line 10, you had explained that you had came up here for a better view of Mirror Park, correct?
Correct.
In the defense's line of questioning, you stated that you were on your phone, however.
To take a photograph, yes.
Did you relay to the officers, obviously with the phone in hand at the time that you were taking a photo, or a better view?
I told them that I was up there to take a photograph.
However, in your statement on line 10, you state that you went up there for a better view, not to take a photograph.
To capture a photograph on line 10. It says right at the end of the first paragraph.
It does indeed.
I see. In line 10 of this docket, you had also stated Dixie did not want to deal with this. Is that correct?
She did say that, yes.
In the defense's line of questioning, you answered that it was Corporal Miles that had stated this. Am I
They
correct
both-
in that?
They both said it. She said that she did not want to deal with it. He said, I'm not dealing with this shit today. And then they walked off and spoke amongst themselves.
See, the state's a little confused here. We're trying to clarify. Why was that not included in the original statement submitted?
It does. It says they remarked, not specifically marking who was the one that said it. They remarked, I'm not dealing with this today. As in plural.
Based on what you can remember of the situation, how tall was this building?
I would say it was either 2 or 3 floors.
And this conversation took place on top of the building, correct? Just to
Correct.
clarify.
Yep, correct. It is the roof of the barber shop in Mirror Park.
I see. Did the officers ask you to leave the roof, correct?
Eventually they did, yeah.
Do you remember it being issued as a lawful order at this time?
He alluded it to being a lawful order, correct? But it was under the guise of trespassing, which I was explaining to him is not lawful.
Let me clarify. Did he give you a lawful order at any point to remove yourself from the roof?
He did, at which point I removed myself from the roof.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Defense, any more witnesses or evidence?
No, Your
Call.
Honor.
Okay. State.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Before we continue, I would like to strike all the questioning that just happened with Mr. Tugelbend. It is posing to be contradicting statements here and there throughout, as the court has been presented by the state at this time. It is not, what is the word I'm looking for? Apologies, mind's escaping right now. At this point, it's not providing a further clarification that the state is looking for in this, nor is it giving any defense any benefits. It is just going back and forth into statements that do not align with the evidence that the defense provided.
I will allow the questioning to remain for now.
Thank you. Your Honor.
Sure. State, do you have any closing statements?
We are prepared whenever you are ready, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have a closing statement?
Could we take 10 to write up a closing statement, please, Your Honor?
Your Honor, can we take 5 minutes due to the pressing matters outside?
Yes, allow recess of 5 minutes. This will be allowed for both parties to prepare closing statements as well as the court to review everything that's been said and presented today. All right. Yeah.
Sorry, you can open over here.
Why am I leaning?
All rise. Court is now in session. Honorable Magistrate Anthony Coronado presiding.
You may be seated. All right. State, are you prepared to give your closing statement?
We are, Your Honor.
Very synchronous. Continue.
Your Honor and the people of San Andreas, today the state has outlined a very clear set of charges: failure to obey a lawful order and Class 1 drug possession. The state has endeavored to define what exactly a lawful order is, in what situations they are given, and what constitutes an arrest when a lawful order is blatantly disregarded. It is the belief of the state that Mr. Tugelbend was clearly given a lawful order by Corporal Miles Strand, and the defendant ignored said order. It was only after that he had been placed under arrest that the defendant had decided to comply. The state has also gone at length to explain what classifies drug possession per H.R. 159. Per that bill, the state has shown the defendant clearly overstepped what is defined as lawful possession of hallucinogenic mushrooms by having 9 units on his person. The state asks that Salvatore Tugelbend be found guilty of both of these charges and remanded to Bolingbrook State Penitentiary for the full 25 months and be fined for $190. Thank you.
Could you repeat your sentencing considerations one more time, please?
Of course. We would ask that Mr. Tugelbend is remanded for 25 months and fined $190.
All right. Defense, are you prepared to give your closing statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Continue.
Your Honor, from testimony today, we can show that my client had a very unprofessional interaction with the police. From trying to take a picture up in Mirror Park to then having a gun basically pointed at him. Not at property, but was on the scene at him. Now, I would say at any given point that would make somebody unruly, especially when everything was pushed against him, such as being told that they're not dealing with this today from testimony given by my client.
Again, please.
Sorry, somebody interrupted there. That police saying that they're not dealing with this today and clearly getting a rise out of my client. I believe that ruling for failure to obey a lawful order against my client sets a dangerous precedent that police can approach somebody under false pretenses of trespassing or breaking and entering or other charges that they have not decided to do preliminary investigation in, then get a rise out of somebody to then follow through with saying this is a lawful order and then arrest them under the guise of a lawful order, even though every other charge before that they were accusing anyone of is not founded in fact. Along with this, the lawful order that Miles Strand gave my client was to get off this roof, which my client openly admitted in his statement that he did proceed to do after the conversation was had. I believe that he is found not guilty of failure to obey a lawful order, and then in doing so, the search that caused them to find the Class 1 drug possessions would fall under the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, which would be the search was unlawful in the first place. I believe my client should be found not guilty of all these charges. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, let's see. All right. After a brief deliberation, the court has come to a decision in the matter regarding 2023 Criminal Matter 190, State of San Andreas versus Salvatore Tugelbend. Will the defendant please rise for the delivery of the verdict? All right. This court finds the defendant, Salvatore Tugelbend, guilty of 1 count of failure to obey a lawful order and 1 count of Class 1 drug possession. First and foremost, the governor of San Andreas grants police powers to all law enforcement officers throughout the entire state. To suggest that Corporal Strand had no jurisdiction on the roof of private property is simply incorrect. Second, the legal definition of trespassing grants any law enforcement officer the power to tell any person to leave any property in the state, and failing to do so constitutes trespassing. To the matter of the detainment of Mr. Tugelbend, any police officer that observes someone in the area of a crime at the time it is committed has the legal right to detain them for questioning. This stop was lawful. When it comes to the lawful order that was given to step down from the roof, it was not followed, and therefore the law was violated. When it comes to the mushrooms found on Mr. Tugelbend, he himself admitted in his own statement that he had them in a cooler. With all that in mind, we've already heard sentencing considerations from the state. So at this point, the defendant, Salvatore Tugelbend, is hereby sentenced to 25 months at Bolingbrook State Penitentiary. However, since he paid a bail of $190 and he appeared at court today, that bail will technically be returned to him, and that will be his fine. So he's already paid that and will not be charged additional fines. At this point, court is adjourned. Mr. Stevens, step over here, please.